Oh gee whiz, I can't wait to make today's video. Oh, God, it's bad. Oh, who is that? Oh my God. How is this the best Sasha Banks scan? How, Mattel? Ding dong. Sorry, y'all. Mayor Aaron isn't home. But Big Time Aaron is on the clock.
Big Time Aaron. Wow. Heel Mayor Aaron is kind of a douche.
Hey y'all, welcome to LumberJillville. Women's wrestling lives here. And welcome into the very first episode of Big Time Aaron's Rants, where I shoot it to y'all straight. You see, as mayor of LumberJillville, I keep things positive, keep things happy, and I'll continue to do so. However, over the last 2 years I've had the channel, there's been a flame that has been sparked in the back of my mind that grows stronger and more furious and more out of control with every time I see a misstep or mistreatment of women's wrestling figures. And that's how Big Time Aaron is born. And in this series, I'm ready to talk about it. So what are we going to be discussing today? We're going to talk about why it took Mattel so long to deliver a decent Sasha Banks base scan. I say decent because her most recent figures are okay. The scans are pretty good. But for years and years when Sasha was the biggest star of the company, they put out some horrendous scans, and we're going to cover those today. And we're also going to talk about how I discovered the best Sasha Banks scan on a toy. And that, my friends, is from the Star Wars Vintage Collection. So how was Hasbro able to nail her likeness a lot faster than Mattel? Well, we're going to take a closer look at this, and we're going to talk about it in today's video. Alright, so at the time of this recording, Sasha is on a hiatus from WWE. Now there are rumors that she's coming back, and I have my fingers crossed. I hope that she does because, in my opinion, she is the GOAT of the women's division. So the figures that we talk about today are figures that have been released up until the time of this video. We're not going to cover all of them. I've done a figure history before, but I'm going to show you some of the terrible scans, and we're going to discuss why and how these even came to be. And we are going to talk about some good here. We're going to talk about some of her more recent figures that are actually pretty darn good. But the biggest question is why? Why it took them so long to figure it out? Especially because Hasbro, as you can see here, has done a pretty good job with her first two figures. Well, not Sasha's first two figures, but Mercedes Vernato's first two figures. Now, when I came across this Vintage Collection figure the other day, I looked at it up close and I was blown away. Now, I am going to open it up. We're going to take a closer look at it and look at the scan. But just from looking at it outside the package, this looks like the best likeness that we've seen of Sasha or Mercedes so far. So that being said, let's take a closer look at her Hasbro releases and let's open this up. Alright, so starting off with this Black Series, Casca Reeves, or Mercedes Varnado, or Sasha, whatever you want to call it. They did a pretty good job here with her likeness. It does look a little bit off. It looks a little bizarre, but you can't blame them. It's their first try, and I thought they did a pretty good job here. It's actually a really cool figure, and it's cool that we have Mercedes in the Black Series. That's kind of unbelievable. Now, let's take a look at this Vintage Collection figure here. Now, we are going to open it up. I did get one to keep MOC for the Sasha shelf, and then we have this one. So we got these accessories, which is nice, but we're going to focus on this figure. Alright, so it is kind of weird, reviewing women's wrestling figures and holding this up because it's so small. But looking at this likeness, I mean, y'all, holy moly, that is an amazing likeness. That really does look just like Mercedes. That is unbelievable. Wow. Alright, now before we look at these monstrosity scans, let's take a look at the good. Alright, so these are Mattel's last 3 releases of Sasha Banks at the time of this recording. And as I mentioned, they're pretty good, but they're still missing some things. On the far left, we have Elite 83. In the middle, we have Basic 128. And on the right, we have Championship Showdown 2-Pack Series 9. Now, this Elite 83 is great. We get her in this nice ring attire. It's the first time we get this scan, which is pretty good. And that hair is blue, which is nice, but it's like a fluorescent neon blue. It's way too bright, doesn't look realistic. I also wish they would have added some dark spots, made like dark roots or so to make it look more realistic. So they fixed the hair in the basic 128 release, but they put her in this really bizarre, stupid attire. It is accurate to the night that they modeled this after, but there's a million other toyetic attires they could have chosen. They chose this, and the attire, quite frankly, looks dumb, but they did darken that hair. So finally, we got a ring attire Sasha with the dark hair and that good scan in the Championship Showdown Series 9. And this is an excellent figure. However, it's just a basic style figure. So we still don't have the end-all be-all Sasha figure. If we get an Elite with this kind of quality or an Ultimate, then we'll have one. But we're still missing that. But at the time of this recording, this is definitely the best one in my opinion. Alright. Now it's time for the main event. Now we're going to look at some of these horrendous scans that make you pose the question, what were they thinking? Alright, let's dive in. Alright, so now let's get down to business and let's cover the bad here. So this was Sasha's first in the line figure in Basic Series 59. Now for a first in the line figure, I can forgive it. It was all the way back in 2016 and I mean, it's pretty bad. Okay, but it definitely doesn't resemble Sasha, in my opinion. And the travesty about this figure is it was actually re-released. This exact figure was re-released later. And there's just no excuse for that, in my opinion. So as we move on to terrible Sasha figures, we go with Elite Series 44 here. And oh my goodness, look at that scan. That is horrendous. Horrendous. They tried to do something there with the eye makeup and they failed miserably. This is terrible. The only saving grace to this figure is that it comes with sunglasses so you can cover up that terrible face scan that looks nothing like Sasha. This is bad. And like I mentioned, the rest of the figure's great, but the face makes the figure and this is just terrible. So moving on to Basic Series 80. Now this is a scan that we got quite a bit. And it doesn't look like Sasha one bit. You know, I didn't mind the scan, and they use the scan quite often with a lot of her figures. And, I mean, it doesn't look like her, but it's okay because at least it's not super goofy looking like the other scans. It's a happy looking female, but it definitely doesn't look like Sasha. And like I mentioned, they use the scan quite a bit. So the fact that they were lazy and used the scan knowing it was terrible just doesn't make sense. All right, now, you ready for this? Next, we have the WrestleMania 35 Elite. Oh my goodness, look at this scan. This is terrible. Now, you might not be able to tell in the image, but the forehead is ginormous. But this looks nothing like Sasha. It really doesn't. It's all out of proportion. That scan looks terrible. And once again, she does come with sunglasses, so I suggest you put those on and cover up that face because that is just, whew. And then we have kind of a weird one here with the Championship Showdown Series 1 2-pack. Now, this is the one and only time we got this curled hair mold, and that's nice. The attire is pretty nice, but the scan, it's bizarre. Once again, it's like a happy scan. It looks like a nice female, like, hey, that's a nice girl, but it doesn't look like Sasha, like one bit. It does not look like her from any angle. Really bizarre that they went with this, and this was released in 2020. So, yeah, as you can see, they've had some terrible Sasha scans. I don't understand why they had so many swings and misses, because all these figures here, they all have different scans, and they're all pretty equally terrible. I am happy with the most recent scans that she got, but why did it take so long for such a big superstar to get a good scan? I'll never know. Drives me nuts. Alright, so now that we've seen the good, the bad, and the downright ugly, I am going to say that Vintage Collection Sasha or Mercedes or Costco, whatever you want to say, it is the best likeness that we have got to her so far. Now, I am a huge, huge fan of Mattel's last 3 releases of Sasha, and I think they really did get a great likeness, but I do think that Vintage Collection edges it out. And to me, that is inexcusable. Sasha is arguably the biggest superstar that they've had in the women's division over the last many, many years. And for Mattel to take so long to get us a good scan just doesn't make sense. Hasbro nailed it on their second try. And this is a tiny 3 3/4 figure, and you can't tell me that the smaller the figure, the easier it is to get the scan. So it's just confusing. I don't understand, but it's inexcusable. Now, with that being said, I really do hope that Sasha comes back and we continue to see a progression of her face scan and it gets better. Thanks for watching the very first episode of Big Time Aaron's Rants, where I shoot it to y'all straight. Now, if you liked today's episode, make sure to comment below. I have many, many more topics that I'd like to rant about. Now, with that being said, Mayor Aaron will be back, and he will be reviewing some really exciting new women's wrestling figures, such as Elite 96 Dewdrop, and hopefully Unmatched Series 5 Red Velvet. Hopefully those get here very, very soon. Now, that being said, thank you for stopping by LumberJillville. Have a great night, y'all.